Hello everyone, my name is Susan Morales, and today I want to talk to you all about what we can do to help our kids be Christian kids during Halloween. So, the first thing I want to encourage you all to do is to talk to your kids about Halloween in an age appropriate manner. All of the things that I'm going to bring up in the rest of this video, please keep in mind that you don't have to go over all of these things if your child is like 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. So you do want to keep in mind that every year you can build on top of whatever you talked about, whatever you covered the year before. So the second thing I want to encourage you to do is to talk about the things that you see all around you. If you're going for a walk in your neighborhood, or you're going into a store and you see all the Halloween decorations, whatever you're surrounded by, have a conversation about your kids. Don't ignore it. Actually talk to your kids. And if your kids are kind of young and they're kind of scared about those kind of things, then maybe a conversation is going to look something like, oh, let's remember that this is just pretend. For example, if you have one of those decorations that are scary, that are moving, that have the voices, you talk about, oh, it's actually just a robot, and someone tried to design it so that it looks really scary. And so, you know how you have other toys that are like robots? Well, they created this one, and then they chose the material, the colors, they tried to make it look very scary. But it's not real. So even though you do feel scared, you can tell your brain that I'm okay, this is not real. It makes me feel scared, but I can tell myself it's not real. It's just pretend. The other thing that might come up is your kid might ask you, well, why do people decorate their homes like this? To that, you can say something like, well, some people actually think it's fun to be scared and to scare other people, and maybe some people just want to do something fun for kids. Whatever the case is, you can follow it up with, well, what do you think? What do we think? Do we want to do that in our home? No? Oh, okay. So we don't do that. We don't think it's fun, but at the same time, we're not going to make our neighbors feel bad and tell them that we don't like it and so forth, because we don't want to hurt their feelings. Okay, the next thing, we can talk about, what does the Bible have to say about all of these things that we are looking at, and the things that people are actually celebrating, what they're not really celebrating. For example, someone might be dressed as a witch. Okay, so is that just imagination, pretend, costume, trying to be scary looking, or is that person actually doing the things that witches do, that the Bible says that's really, really bad? We want to make sure that our kids understand, okay, there's pretend and then there's like real, because a lot of people might not necessarily be doing the actual real thing that God hates. And for example, there's this book series that I got recently, Narnia. And there is a book here that says The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So there's a witch character. We haven't read it just yet, but I like to tell my kids, well, remember how we read about Aesop fables, that the author used animals in stories to help people to learn lessons about people and to better and more easily receive those lessons. And so here, the author of Narnia actually is using characters, for example, a witch, that is going to help us to better understand or think more deeply about things having to do with God. So is this just imagination, or is there like actual, like practicing of the things? So we want to be able to show them the difference. There are Bible verses that you can go over with your kids if they ask, well, why are witches a bad thing, for example. You can really look into like anything that comes up in the Bible. So, for example, First Chronicles 10:13 says, Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord. He did not keep the word of the Lord and even consulted a medium for guidance. So there you can see how that was something very shameful for Saul to have done. So here's another one, 1 Samuel 15:23. For rebellion is like the sin of divination, and arrogance like the evil of idolatry. Leviticus 19:31. Do not turn to mediums or seek out spiritists, for you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. And Leviticus 26 says, I will set my face against anyone who turns to mediums and spiritists to prostitute themselves by following them, and I will cut them off from their people. Revelation 21:8 says that, but the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars, they will be consigned to the fiery lake of burning sulfur. This is the second death. So it's very, very clear throughout the Bible. Here another one in Galatians 5:19-20. The acts of the flesh are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity and debauchery, idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions. All right, so it's important to note that witchcraft and some of these other things that pop up during Halloween, they're in a list of other sins as well. So sometimes we might make one sin seem greater than another, but it's actually a sobering way to think about it. These things that a lot of Christians protest against during Halloween, they're actually right next to other things that we might not pay as much attention to or be so stern against. For example, sexual immorality, right here, fits of rage, what was it, lies? Yeah, liars. So yeah, it's a good reminder for us on Halloween. Hey, we know that these things are evil, but let's look at all the other things that perhaps I am doing. And if we know that some of the people that are practicing these things out there in reality, let's make sure to pray and, like I said, prepare our kids so that they can better understand, like, okay, what are the things that God hates? And let's let them understand the severity of it. And the last thing, we need to decide, in prayer, in having conversations with our spouse, or whatever your situation may be, we have to decide where we personally draw the line. So, for example, if you personally feel like, hey, I don't want to participate in any of it, then go ahead and do that, and you raise your child that way. But if you are in a situation where you're like, wait a minute, God can redeem this and do something good, then go ahead and do that. For example, some churches have harvest festivals, and it's an opportunity for the neighborhood to get to know the church and hopefully feel more comfortable visiting at a later date. So things like that, I think we need to learn to not just want to see one or the other, but like two things can be true at the same time. Like, definitely we don't want to raise our kids to think that they can like grow up to be like spiritual mediums and witches. We definitely don't want to communicate that message to them. So if we are going to have them participate in dressing up or costumes, we want them to choose wisely and to be very aware that there are people that are actually needing to come to Jesus that are practicing these things. So definitely want to teach our kids to be a light to the world. All right? Let me know what you think about these things in the comments below. Remember to keep it polite and respectful to all. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.
I can see your love now. I song for me. I can see your love now. I can see how you died for my place. I can see your love now. You're coming back for me someday. And